One night in a quiet house in a forest, a man and a boy were sleeping, but the man woke up because he heard someone trying to open his door. He took a sword and looked at the situation from the window, but there was one monster who took the man. Hearing the guard, the boy tried to fight the monster. He has the power of moving places quickly, flying, and is good at fighting. Unfortunately, he loosed to the monster while the guard died. Then the monster stabbed the boy to death and turned to ashes. Shortly thereafter, a man came and took the necklace that the boy was wearing. It turned out that he collected 2 previous necklaces, which are now 3. The man is a creature from the Megadorians. The next day on the beach, there were several teenagers playing in the sea. One of them was Daniel. He wore the same necklace as the boy who was killed by the Megadorians last night. In the evening, he and Nicole take a dip in the sea, but he felt heat and pain in his right leg. Daniel realized that the hot part of his leg was glowing. This made his friends excited. Then Daniel ran away from that place. In the morning, Henry, Daniel's guardian, picked him up on the beach. He told him that the mark on Daniel's leg was a sign that showed 3 of the 9 super kids died. It turned out that Daniel was a creature from planet Lorien. There were 9 kids from the planet who escaped to Earth to avoid an attack from the Megadorians. The 9 kids managed to stay on Earth and split up. Each kid has a companion or guardian. After the death of number 3, Henry invited Daniel to move home. Henry knew Megadorian was hunting the 9 Lorien children starting in order number 1, so the next target after number 3 was number 4, Daniel. Then Henry burned some photos and items related to Daniel. Henry did this so that the Megadorians could not find traces of Daniel. A few days later, Daniel and Henry arrived at the new house. Henry made a new identity for Daniel. He changed Daniel's name to John Smith. That night, John saw a dog and he kept it. John named the dog Barney. The next morning, a woman entered Henry and John's old house. Then the woman burned the house down to nothing. She did this so that Megadorians would think John was dead. It turned out that the woman was number 6 named Jane. She has fireproof powers. At home, John asked permission to go back to school. Henry initially forbade it because he didn't want John to be seen by many people. But John was able to convince Henry that he would be fine. Besides, Henry changed the boy's name, so he allowed John to go to school. Henry firmly warned him not to cause trouble at school. Then John arrived at his new school. He did the administration, and after that Sarah escorted John to his locker. Soon a male student named Mark came up to John. He invited John's acquaintance. Unfortunately, Mark was a student who liked to bully, so John didn't like Mark. During the break, John saw Mark throwing the ball towards a student named Sam. Seeing that John helped Sam, then he threw the ball back towards Mark's friend. But his strong throw made Mark's friend fall. In the evening, Megadorian disguised himself as a human. He went to the supermarket to buy a large amount of meat. Then he gave the meat to the monster in the truck. John saw Sarah at the camera shop. Then he talked to Sarah. It seemed that John liked Sarah because Sarah took pictures of John many times and uploaded them. Then Sarah said that she liked the world of photography and that through photos she could see the world more clearly. They were getting closer. So Sarah invited him to her house. When they arrived at Sarah's house, John was happy because Sarah's parents received him well. John allowed into Sarah's room to see her photo collection. Soon John heard the sound of a dog, which turned out to be Barney. Seeing that, John felt upset because he had to go home. Meanwhile, outside Sarah's house, Mark saw John approaching Sarah. This upset him because Mark also liked Sarah. The next day, Mark bullied John and also Sam. They exposed the red liquid in each other's lockers. John was upset. He knew that it was Mark's doing. Then John was about to hit Mark. But he undid his intention because there were many friends who surrounded John and Mark. Besides that, John also didn't want them to know that John was not an ordinary human. Then John chose to clean his body from the red paint. In the evening, Mark looked at Sarah's website. He was surprised and happy because there were several photos of John taken by Sarah. But soon the photos disappeared because Henry managed to hack Sarah's site and delete John's photos. In the morning, Megadorian went to John's old house. He found out that number 4 was still alive just by smelling the burnt debris of John's belongings. Meanwhile, John was still at school as usual, but he realized there was something in his hand. On the other hand, Henry searched for Sam's father named Malcolm on the internet. Henry got information that Malcolm had been missing since 2005. Then Henry decided to go to Malcolm's abandoned workplace. Henry saw a hole where a meteor had fallen. Soon Henry found half of the Lorien stone that he had been looking for. Then he took the stone home and studied it. He knew that the stone could make it easier for Henry to find number 5 to number 9. Later that evening, John accompanied Sarah to a festival. They had fun and enjoyed the rides. Then they entered the haunted house ride, which was right in the middle of the forest. Suddenly, there were some people who beat John, but he easily defeated them. Those people were Mark's men who were jealous of John, who could be close to Sarah. Then Mark took Sarah away, but John could find her. He wanted to break Mark's hand, but Sarah forbade John. Apart from Mark in the forest, there was Sam, who secretly saw John use his powers. He realized that John was not an ordinary man. After the incident, John regretted that he showed people what he could do. Then he drove Sarah home. When John returned home, he realized that his powers were getting stronger. He could break a lamp by just holding his hand, and he could have the power of telekinesis. Soon he got a message from Sam, who said that Sam saw John in the forest earlier. Sam also invited him to chat at Sam's house. John immediately met Sam and invited him to chat. John explained that he was a creature from planet Lorien. Sam was happy to hear that because he felt that he and his father had the right beliefs about aliens. Sam also believed that his father was taken by a creature from planet Lorien or Megadorian. Then John told Sam to keep the fact that John was an extraterrestrial a secret. John also added that Megadorian was looking for John. The next morning, a policeman came to John's house. It turned out that the policeman was Mark's father. Then he asked about the incident last night that John had injured Mark, but John denied it and said that he was with Sarah. After knowing this, Henry invited John to move house. Henry didn't want to get involved with people. In addition, Henry told John that there was someone who recorded the incident when John's light was lit. Then the person uploaded it on a conspiracy site. Henry couldn't delete the video. Henry decided to go meet the person who had recorded the video. Before Henry left, John said that he didn't want to move. John wanted to stay with Sarah, but Henry continued to force him, until John fought him with his strength. When Henry released John, he told him his plan. Henry wanted to unite all of Number so that he could defeat Megadorian easily. Then Henry gave John time to say goodbye to Sarah. In the morning, John didn't find Henry at home. John called Henry, but someone else received it. Then the person gave his address so that John could save Henry. But John asked Sam to take him to the address. When John arrived at that address, he easily entered the house. It turned out to be the place where the person who recorded John. Soon John saw Henry and let him go, but someone attacked John. John easily defeated him. Then the owner of the website arrested Sam. It turned out that the man knew Sam, who was Malcolm's son, seeing that John beat the man. Then he said that Megadorian arrived and this was his plan. Suddenly a man wanted to kill John, but John defeated him. John, Henry, and Sam were about to escape, but Sam lost his car keys. Then one of the Megadorians flew and wanted to kill John. Henry tried to block the man even though Henry stabbed him. Before Henry died, he gave the Lorien stone to John. He said that the stone could make it easier to unite the Number. Soon Henry died and became ashes, seeing that John was very sad. Then John received information that the police were searching his house. The police considered John a fugitive. In addition, John knew that Sarah was at Mark's house. Then John headed to Mark's house. On the way, Sam said that he had the Lorien stone in his father's safe. Hearing that, John told Sam to take the stone. Meanwhile, John went straight to Sarah. But Mark secretly called the police to arrest John. But John managed to escape, even though he showed his strength in front of the police to protect Sarah. Then Sarah took John to school to print photos. Meanwhile, Mark knew that they were going to school. He then went to school, but the Megadorians arrived at the school first. Then the Megadorians attacked the police and took Mark as a hostage. Meanwhile, John and Mark were inside the school. Sarah asked John to show her who John really was. Meanwhile, Sam headed to the school to give John half the Lorien stone he owned. On the way, Sam saw Barney, who wanted to come with him. Then Sam asked him to go. When Sam arrived at the school, he saw the Megadorians. Then he called John to leave the school, but the Megadorians turned off the school lights. John, who was hiding, decided to leave the school. Not long after, Number 6 arrived. She helped John to fight the Megadorians. After that, they got acquainted. It turned out that Jane also no longer had a guard like John. Soon Sam, who was in the car, saw the Megadorians' pet monster coming. Barney, who also saw the monster, immediately turned into a dog monster. Sam went to see John. He said that there were Megadorians monsters. In addition, Barney also became a monster and fought him. While they were tense, the monster came with Megadorians. Jane fought Megadorian while John distracted the monster. Then Barney came to fight the monster. Seeing that, John returned to help Number 6, who was fighting Megadorian. John saw Jane, who was exhausted, and then John transferred his strength to Jane. As a result, they can defeat the Megadorians. On the other hand, Barney almost lost to the monster. But when the monster slipped, Barney immediately bit the monster's neck to death. John and Jane went to the school field. They saw the Megadorians prepared to fight them. But one of the monsters that could fly carried Jane. Seeing that, John released the remaining Megadorians and helped Jane. But John was shot by Megadorian while Jane fell. Megadorian was about to kill John, but John detonated the bomb on Megadorian's body. Then Jane protected John from the explosion. Jane didn't get burned because she has fireproof powers. The next day, John would leave with Jane. They brought the 2 Lorien stones together. Then they were able to sense the other numbers. Then Mark came and gave the box from John's father that was confiscated by the police. Mark also helped John escape by telling the police that John went east while John went west. John also took Sam on an adventure to find the other numbers. John thought that maybe Sam's father was with one of the other numbers. Before leaving, John told Sarah that he would return after uniting the numbers. In addition, John also took Barney on an adventure.